Greetings, my paranormal patrons. This is the Monstrous Feminine Podcast Patreon, a space where horrible humans talk a little bit more about horror. My name is Louisa, and this episode it's just me and Zeba and a very special Coven guest.
In this episode, we're interviewing my very good friend, Ariadne Nova Night, who has kindly agreed to come on this podcast to tell us a little bit more about voodoo and hoodoo. Ariadne is a Brooklyn-based writer and producer of trans experience. She enjoys long walks on the beach, money given without the expectation of repayment, and thirsting over the former NYC Health Commissioner, Dave Chachki.
He's a sexy man.
He's really handsome. We miss you, Dave.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to hear more about hoodoo and voodoo, and I was very happy that Zeba had someone in her circles to explain. So, how do you guys know each other?
We go way, way back. Who knows how many years now? Who knows how old we've become, rounding our quarter life crisis. But I met Ari in college, our very first year of college. And we were actually enemies to begin.
Oh, wait, is this an enemies to lovers?
No. We were not enemies. I loved Zeba. Zeba hated me, could not stand me.
Oh, Zeba.
Becoming like friends kind of coincidentally. We went on a trip together to Yale and had to like stay in the same room, and then like this close ever since.
That's literally the plot of The Parent Trap, except for you're not twins, but
it's kind of just as adorable.
Just as adorable. And
just as adorable.
Yeah, we were forced to become friends because of being in the same space. But we've lived together for many, many years. So, we know each other like back of the hand, back of the pillow. What is that?
We
cool like the other side of the pillow.
Oh, you guys are cute. So you went to Sarah Lawrence then? You're a Sarah Lawrence survivor?
Oh yeah, made it through.
What did you study?
I went for like fiction writing and then ended up like transitioning into TV and kind of working on like visual media theory and TV, actually like and on a project that had to do with like hoodoo and Afrofuturism.
Nice. So you're a film girl.
Yeah, TV
girl.
Okay. But I dabble in the films.
You dabble. Yeah. Okay.
But definitely like the way that Taya will go depth into like the industry goss and knows everything. I feel like you're that way with television programming and network television in particular.
I feel like television's like also a minefield, so I'd be interested in the goss.
Oh yeah, it's hot. A whole bunch of contracts, millions of dollars that I'll never see. It's delicious.
I feel like that's publishing too.
Yeah, I was going to say that is publishing.
No one really needs to know the gossip. It's like kind of fun if you do.
Yeah, it's actually, you're right. It's actually more depressing. Like you're like, oh great, this book made more than I'll ever see in my entire career. So I'm looking at Dave Chachki. I'm not really.
So there's nothing, I guess, sexier than a man putting together plans to protect you from, pathogens.
Disaster.
And he used to have these like New York City commercials where he would come on and just like talk to you for like 2.5 minutes straight, very calm.
Like he's like a father and a husband. You trust him.
Okay.
He's a person of color. That's definitely why they picked him. They have a new guy who's a black guy, but he's not the same flavor, I guess.
He's like conventionally handsome, but he doesn't have the same like that's
aura.
Amazing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I need to see a video of this of him, and then I would maybe understand it a bit more. But thank you for clarifying that thirst. Would you like to sort of introduce yourself and tell us how you came to hoodooism? Is it hoodooism? To practice hoodoo?
Yeah, like the practice. Yeah, I formally started like getting involved in like I guess what we would consider like magical traditions, Wicca and stuff about a decade ago when I was 15. I watched Charmed like so many gay kids, and I was like obsessed with I think the idea of witches, and then practiced Wicca for about 3 years. And then when you really get into it, like Wicca is kind of built on a foundation of like appropriation and colonialism. So I was like, This doesn't really fit for me. And then I started practicing hoodoo about 4 years ago now. And that's been, I think, like a process of like trying to reconnect with my, heritage.
yeah, which episode was it with the craft legacy that we talked about, like Wicca and how it's
Probably.
we talked a little bit how it's turfy. And then no, it was an episode we didn't film. It was Lovecraft Country, where we had, so it was a private WhatsApp conversation that we had. We were talking about like magic and appropriation and white witches versus like Black traditions and stuff like that. So that's interesting.
Is hoodoo considered witchcraft? I feel like no.
It depends on the person. I mean, like witchcraft has become like kind of like a colloquial term and like a way for people, I think, to like reclaim spiritual traditions that have been like demonized by the church. There are some hoodoo practitioners that would call themselves witches. There's some that would call themselves like conjure workers or root workers or workers, period. It really is, I think, in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I like workers. That sounds like really like cool. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're the workers, like really like vague kind of thing.
Good word. I feel like though, because it's so associated with Christianity, that's why a lot of people wouldn't want to call it witchcraft.
It's kind of like a give and a take. Like there is like a foundation of hoodoo. So one of the things about it is that like there are hoodoo practitioners who will say that you're not fully practicing the art if you're not Christian, if you're not blessing with, you know, scripture from the Bible, if you're not using holy water and like calling all of the herbs by their like St. John's root or whatever. And I feel like those people would be slower to call it witchcraft. But there are also people for whom that isn't necessarily the case. It's really, that's the thing with oral traditions and with religions like this that are passed down not through like books, is that like everybody kind of makes their own path in it.
So you're one of the people who like calls it hoodoo and you like to specify rather than use an umbrella like witchcraft.
Yeah, I think so. There are so many different traditions of witchcraft, so many different ways that people find, you know, the spirit. And I think hoodoo is specific in its history, in its inception, and kind of in its uses.
Yeah, interesting. One thing I'm personally not too clear on is like the distinction between hoodoo and voodoo, because I couldn't really like from the internet find more than just, well, hoodoo's the like African American denomination of voodoo. And then this website also said that voodoo tends to be a bit more, I don't want to say institutionalized, but like organized in practice and stuff. But I didn't really trust this website either because it was saying things like that hoodoo can incorporate Catholicism, whereas voodoo doesn't. And I thought, well, that's not really true, because in the movie, that one of the movies we watched, that's literally like something that they talk about, which is voodoo and like Catholicism links. So I kind of wanted to hear from somebody who practices like kind of a clarification of like that distinction.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like voodoo is a religion kind of the diaspora. It's brought down from like Yoruba religions, and like the like Orishas and the Loa and like the gods that come from that are transferred to voodoo and also to Santeria and also to a number of other kind of like diasporic religions and traditions. Hoodoo specifically, and what's really interesting about Louisiana voodoo is that they would call that voodoo because there is that influence of like the Loa and that, but it's also kind of an amalgam of hoodoo. So it kind of becomes this like weird thing where it is both voodoo and hoodoo. The thing about Eve's Bayou, I watch with Zeba, and they call that voodoo, and they're not technically wrong, but in the way that you're right that they use Catholicism, it is more aligned with like traditions of hoodoo.
And I always understood it to be like places where slaves were not intentionally separated and spoke the same language. They were more likely to do voodoo and like more Yoruba based religions because they all spoke the same language and they didn't lose those traditions. So like the Caribbean kept a lot of African traditions that the US just lost. So like hoodoo is that like hodgepodge of things because everybody was from different parts of Africa and brought hodgepodges with them. So like the things that lasted and remain, even if people don't even know they're practicing hoodoo, like the things that like Black folks still do and they don't even know where it comes from, I feel like I associate like that is hoodoo, whereas like voodoo, like they know who they're praying to and where it comes from and why.
There's something distinctly American though about that, like that cut off from, I guess, like a larger history.
Yeah, because in Louisiana, I feel like a lot of the slaves were from the same place. I might be wrong about that, but
Well, that's the thing about it, is that like all American, like the American hoodoo system is like Wicca, and I'm like we were saying, an amalgam of many things, an amalgam of like indigenous practices, like First Nations people,
That's true,
Mexican
yeah.
indigenous, like all of these things kind of coming together in response to white supremacy. And it kind of, you're right, it kind of creates like a start for its history with colonialism and doesn't really go further.
There's less rules.
Voodoo has a longer history, and you're right, like gods that we look to. And
There's a wrong way to do voodoo.
A wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mess with it. It's like, not that it's scary, but in that like I really respect voodoo practitioners, and like in the spaces where like I've known like folks who do it, I just like, not that like I'm afraid that like it's dark-sided or nothing like that, but I'm always like, no, it's that's not for me. You have to know what you're doing and like be brought up in a lineage of it. Like it's not something you come to. Like if you're doing anything with it, you're doing it like with a voodoo priestess or like with somebody who can like bring you through the process. It's not no like kitchen magic.
I was gonna say, in the films that we watched, I feel like the common thread is like a white person needing something, so they'll go to like someone who practices voodoo and be like, give me this thing. And then there's often like the voodoo priestess or priest who like, there's trickery involved. Like I don't know if you watched Serpent and the Rainbow. I don't think you did, but in that one, like he's looking for this zombie powder that this Haitian guy makes, and he gives him rat poison instead. So, and it's like, at first anyways, as like a trick. And then also in Coven, like when she wants a fertility spell, I guess, and the white witchcraft isn't really doing it for her, so she like seeks out. And I always thought, I was like, that's wild. Like I would not seek out something that I didn't know nothing about. Like no wonder you guys get tricked. Like you just, not only is it also, there was like a level of entitlement with the white witch in Coven. What's it, Cordelia in Coven? It's also just like, what are you doing? Like you have no idea.
Right, you're literally messing with forces you have no idea.
Have you seen, I'm gonna send this to y'all actually before we record the main episodes, but I'll send it to you too. There's this bonkers Vice video about this white guy who goes to like the Haitian voodoo church in, I think, Flatbush. It's the most bonkers thing I've ever seen in my life. Like I could write a whole dissertation on it, where he just like, it's actually Serpent in the Rainbow, like literally almost shot for shot, but it's by Vice News, and they just throw him in the middle of it, like really throw him in the middle of it. And I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said about like compulsory American Christianity and that need to like tune into like witchcraft, into the darker things when like one form of spirituality doesn't suit you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something like the process of Cordelia going to see this, or like I wish I had words for it.
Voyeurism, or like,
it is kind of voyeurism, but it's also kind of a reference. I think that like,
what are they looking for?
I don't know. Validation, maybe. I don't know. I wish I was a white person. Maybe.
Do you?
Well,
just for a day.
I think also in these films, particularly Eve's Bio, there's like this thing of like consequence, like not being aware of the consequences of what you're engaging in as well. I mean, little Eve doesn't have the sort of racial connotations of the consequence of an ignorance, but she is naive and ignorant and like goes to the kind of a voodoo priestess to sort of get a spell. And there is this kind of thing of like, don't mess with what you don't know about. Very strong message in that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's also like are you sure that you want this? Like that kind of happens with any hoodoo practitioner, any witch that like is about it. There's always the question of like, okay, you want this person to love you. You want to know if your partner is cheating. You want to do all of these things. Are you sure though that you're really willing to do that? I had a friend who was a witch, and the way that he like broke it down in his mind is he was like, if I'm going to like, the only way that I would do a spell for something is if it's something that I would like physically throw a punch for, or that I would consider like putting myself physically on the line for, because that's the stakes of it. And that's kind of the stakes of Eve's Bayou too. If you want this man dead, like he's gonna die. And if you're not willing to like commit to that, this is not for you.
Zeba, you said you don't mess with voodoo. Do you mean that you mess with hoodoo?
Yeah, I think most Black Americans mess with hoodoo and don't even know it. Like there's things that
Right.
we just like do that like, okay, because your auntie or your grandma told you to do it. I don't know. There's so many little things. Like, I don't know, like throwing salt over your shoulder or
like you can't leave your
Oh, really?
purse on the floor.
Can't leave your purse on. I never leave my purse on the floor.
Can't leave your purse on the floor.
You'll lose money.
You'll lose money. You can't sweep an unmarried person's feet because they'll never get married.
Yeah.
You can't, like, you eat collard greens and
black eyed peas.
Black eyed peas on New Year's for good luck, and the last male walking into the house has to have $20. There are all of these like micro like traditions that are magically rooted and rooted in.
But I think most people would say like, oh, I don't know why we do that.
Okay, that's really interesting. It's like a diaspora within a diasporic religion, basically, already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But most of those people who have those traditions are also like grew up in the church. Like I would say my family who is not like church going does not have those superstitions. But I think it's because like religious people are like more superstitious. But also like, I don't know if you have a relative who has like a special soup or tea that's for a cold or just like any kind of like home remedies. I would consider that hoodoo as well, or herbalism or root magic or
definitely root magic. Yeah.
I wrote down bottle trees actually in the notes. You know about bottle trees? I just learned about to catch ghosts. They hang blue bottles in the trees.
Blue bottles?
Yeah, I don't know where everyone's getting blue bottles. I've never I don't know what beverage has a blue bottle, but like I've seen the trees. I've never seen blue bottles.
And it catches ghosts.
Exactly.
To protect the house.
There's one tradition in the South where like a lot of people, like a lot of like men specifically, were told like don't eat women's red food. Like if a woman cooks food.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
That was our viral TikTok. That was like don't eat spaghetti from other women. And then everyone was like, what?
That's hoodoo as well.
My dad had a woman put a root on him when he was dating my mom, and like he had just broken up with this other girl, and like he found it like months later under his bed. Like,
found what?
A root, like a little curse root, like knotted and shit like that, and put in a little box and magicked up and put under his bed.
Did it have any effect? Like, did he say that he had like thought about that other girl?
I don't know, because I don't really know what her intention was. And I think he like found it and had that like black fear of magic moment and just kind of
so afraid of magic. Maybe that's a hoodoo thing. Have you ever seen these compilations of Black people being afraid of magicians? Like magicians doing regular like card tricks.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's valid. I don't know how they do it. I don't like
it's untrusted.
Can you imagine dating a man for like 7 months and then find out?
No, I can't imagine. No, you could have just stopped it. Can you imagine dating a man?
I think a lot of the girls are learning hoodoo on TikTok too.
Oh no. What do you think about that? What do you think about the Wicca or just in general magical takeover of TikTok?
So I think that like there's a lack of reverence because it's impossible to communicate nuance on social media, right? Even on a platform like TikTok. And I think what's missing from like Witch Talk and from a lot of those spaces is that you can't like, I can't teach a 16-year-old who's having like magical feelings or whatever.
A crush
or wants to engage. I can't teach them the nuance of like responsibility, what like this is for,
or a relationship to deities, like the way they be like Kiki and with right.
The person who tried to summon Papa Legba, right? And then died.
I see a lot of aunties like who've been doing hoodoo for a really long time. I'll get them on my page. They're low quality Android cameras being like, I'm begging y'all to stop. They're like, you don't know what you're messing with.
But here's the flip side though, is that like because hoodoo is primarily an oral tradition and not like a formal religion, a lot of traditions were like lost like over the years. Zora Neale Hurston like famously was a hoodoo practitioner and went before she passed and kind of did like almost like an ethnography like on hoodoo in the South, Florida and Louisiana specifically. And that's one of the only...
It's true. We do have to preserve it and keep doing it.
We do have, that's like some of the only recorded information about hoodoo. Otherwise, you have to be initiated or you have to have somebody formally teach you.
That's the thing about voodoo is like there's a lot of formal I don't want to say gatekeeping, but like,
well, I was gonna say you want to gatekeep it. I'm not. We want to gatekeep it off TikTok.
I guess on TikTok, but like for voodoo or anything more formally structured than that, like you do have to go through like a year's worth initiation and like really study your shit if you're about it.
Yeah, and that process is like you wear white for a year every day, and it's it's very intensive when you are in the voodoo process. There is a hoodoo initiation process as well, specifically in Louisiana, but like we were talking about, it's really more of like a... I
mean, maybe some girls are watching a TikTok and eventually getting initiated. Like everybody starts somewhere, but I think it is dangerous.
About voodoo, this initiation, or hoodoo? I missed that, sorry.
So there are both. So there are initiation processes for hoodoo that like somebody's auntie or grandma will do.
That just to like formalize it, like perhaps that you are like, people can come to you for spiritual advice. Like it's
I just let you know what you're doing.
A thing of verified.
But the difference between initiation processes is like voodoo is a lot more intensive. It is like a full year of like work.
Okay.
Basically.
Isn't Summer Walker doing it?
She is. Well, I don't really know. She's training to be a Yoruba priestess.
Okay. She's doing her year of white, I think, now.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know, seeing as you watched most of the films that we kind of covered, but also it's just in general, like how accurately do you think voodoo or hoodoo is portrayed in like the media? I say voodoo mostly because I haven't really seen hoodoo like be depicted, at least not where it's named hoodoo.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Eve's Bayou is lit. Like that movie does so well at like keeping the mysticism of it all, keeping the Catholicism of it all. There's a scene where Eve's watching her aunt do like conjure work for people and make their little bags and things like that. And what's so striking to me is like a woman walks in full church gear, like left church and went to this woman's house. It's the lady, I think, whose her son might be like on drugs or something like that. It's one of those scenes. But like that to me feels the most accurate. That like old time like helping the community work feels accurate. American Horror Story and like that type of representation is not so accurate. But I kind of had a moment last night. I was talking to you about this. I kind of had a moment last night where I realized that I would rather actually like these representations of voodoo that we get from white people, because there was a long time when voodoo and hoodoo was used specifically against enslavers, specifically against beneficiaries of white supremacy to scare them, or as a weapon to be used against them. And that American Horror Story exists in this like horror avenue where like that type of voodoo storytelling exists.
You were saying that was like in the tradition of voodoo that it be the thing that scares white people. Like whatever it seems to scare white people, it should come off that way, because that was the intention. It was to scare your master, to scare the colonizer. And so if they're scared, mission accomplished.
I think
that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's just so like funny, I think. Just like the way that like white people envision this, the fear, the zombies and the sacrifice and the like, I don't know. It's really interesting to see like white people be scared of like Angela Bassett with a bad New Orleans accent. You know what I'm saying? They're like shaking in their boots over her heads.
Hey, don't come for Angela Bassett.
She was pretty scary.
She was. She killed that role. It's just we
what about the what do you call that beast?
Minotaur, yeah.
Like that feels like, okay, you pulled that out your ass.
I really don't understand a lot of the creative decisions of that season.
We don't need to get into the Ryan Murphy like headspace. I really think that I think we said it in one episode that the Ryan Murphy gaze, you said it, Zeba, the Ryan Murphy gaze is its own gaze. And I truly think he threw that in there for a little bit of like furry fun.
I fucking agree with you. It's so random, especially when Queenie's like, I'm gonna fuck it.
We said this in the main app, which is that like American Horror Story kind of uses Patricia Hill Collins like controlling images of Black women, and that is one of them, like that hypersexuality they really use with Queenie, because like honestly, like why? And also the fact that they make him into a literal beast, and they have this overtly racist character constantly calling him like slurs and animal terms and whatever. And it's like a controlling image of Black people is just like hypersexuality and like animalistic, wild, and they really feed into that, and it's very evident in that scene. And it's like, for what reason?
That's true also of like the way the voodoo priestesses are always depicted. They're always young and like attractive, and like while they're doing their magic, I would say it's erotic, which isn't not true. Like magic is erotic by nature, but like the voodoo priestesses that I have met are like grown ladies. Like they're not you know what I mean? Like they're not Jezebels.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jezebel image. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it's hard to have Angela Bassett do anything without me being like, this has been sexualized. But it's actually probably just me being like wanting to fuck Angela Bassett. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you haven't seen Sugar Hill, have you? Same deal. I feel like it was a blaxploitation movie, but she does voodoo to like raise the zombie army for her to revenge on white people type of deal. But she's very sexy.
Yeah, she's hot. She's got great cheekbones as well. But that film actually shows the connection of voodoo and zombies that I could find when I was doing the research. Like I think zombie, in terms of how America's conceptualized it, came from like the word zombie with just an I, not an E at the end, in Haiti. And there was like this explorer anthropologist who met this. I gotta get the main app script notes because I'm gonna fuck up everyone's name because I don't know it.
I think definitely American Horror Story took inspiration from Sugar Hill and the episode with the zombies. It felt very reminiscent of what happens. And I feel like Ryan Murphy, unafraid to reference or not reference, and that felt like a reference.
Yeah.
Even uses Lady Gaga. Not in that season, but you know what I mean.
That quote is about him, no?
It's about him.
Yeah.
Okay, it was this William Seabrook wrote a book called The Magic Island. That was where he got this idea of zombies, and it was based off of this man he met that claimed that he had been, I guess, zombified by the Bokor and made to work on a plantation. And then that kind of inspired a lot of zombie movies followed up in America, like which were quite offensive, and that voodoo was always like this horror thing. And like in White Zombies, this 1932 film, there's like a white couple, and like one of the woman is like zombified by a voodoo Bokor, and it's like all about how voodoo and this uncivilized practice threatens the sanctity of the Christian marriage, basically. Like that's the vibe.
They don't get it then.
But there is something like so kind of iconic about that though. Like y'all made all these multi-million-dollar budget movies to be punks. Like that's kind of cool. And what I think about also is that like that zombie fear is so, I was telling you too, like it's so inherently Christian. It's so inherently like Judgment Day is here and the dead are rising from the ground and the world is ending. And I think that that's where that fear also comes from.
Yeah. But yeah, that was basically what this article was saying, that zombies have like, at least how America's conceptualized it was kind of in cinema was like because of voodoo and like a legend that they heard, but it actually takes it like in a completely different form than the real equivalent would have been. Like zombies now, like basically the evolution of zombies have drifted so far from what they were originally supposed to be conceived as. Sorry, I'm getting
interesting though. What folks in the media have fixated on is not like possession for one. Like possession is a big part of voodoo practice, and it was also, I would think, scary to folks who are unfamiliar with it. But like I would say it's like one of the main tenets of voodoo. And you almost never see in a movie like somebody being possessed or like the ancestors speaking through your body or using your body to do human things, smoke tobacco, drink liquor, like the things that are like taboo. You know, I'm like, y'all just forgot about that. You're like, y'all just either weren't scared or weren't whatever. Like they have, I would say, a depiction of not Papa Legba. I would say they have a depiction of
American Horror Story.
Yeah, of what's the other name? There's another name that's like more associated with the devil and less to do. And it's like depictions of Papa Legba I've seen a lot. There's many different kinds. Even in like Princess and the Frog, that is a depiction of Papa Legba. They just don't call him that. That actually is more accurate in Princess and the Frog, because he's the person you go to like before you cross over, or before you like talk to like other deities, or before you talk to your ancestors, and is like not evil at all, just a dude. I don't know, maybe like a little mischievous, but not like evil by any means. And like the way that like folks have like focused on that deity, when in reality, like, and we see in like Eve's Bayou and even Serpent in the Rainbow, like there are other deities that you commune with besides Papa Legba. Like it's not like, I don't know, I don't know, it's like the things that they've cherry picked are like strange to me.
Yeah, like that binary of good and evil doesn't really exist in voodoo.
Yeah.
Right? That like concept of like God and the devil doesn't exist. Everybody is complex and nuanced, and they're all tricksters in their own right. And you're right, like Papa Legba is not some like white-faced man who's stealing the souls of children like an American Horror Story. You leave candy for him when you want to reach him, and toys and shit, right? Like things that you, sweet things.
Not cocaine, you mean? What?
Maybe some tobacco, maybe some liquor, but not cocaine. You're right. And they've misconstrued a lot of things. Like there are traditions where like you cover yourself in ash and you would look more like that white face thing. But that's like it's like Day of the Dead. Same idea of like looking like the dead will help the dead cross over.
I see. Yeah, if you were to just get your impression of Papa Legba from like American Horror Story, you'd think he was like a gatekeeper of like hell. Yeah, that's literally his role, is that he sends people to hell. In Coven anyway. So, which terrifying. Anyway, let's not get into that. I think it's interesting that you are almost okay with, or you are okay with voodoo being like a horror motif, because it serves its original purpose of like rebelling against the colonizer. That's really interesting. I hadn't really thought of it like that. There's a subversive interpretation in there, which is interesting.
Kind of like scared. Yeah, you should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You should be.
You don't know what you're messing with? Good, you don't.
Yeah. Don't try and figure it out. Don't send an anthropologist to
oh my God.
get to the bottom of it.
I don't know if I have any other questions. Was there anything you wanted to tell us?
Can we talk about this book?
Yes. For anybody.
You have a book?
Yeah, I do. It's called Hoodoo and Root Magic. It's by...
That's when you fall in love. It's your Hoodoo.
Right.
Yronwode?
Yronwode. It's like one of the only like formal collections of like Hoodoo. There are a couple hundred spells in there, herbs, also recipes, like how to cook collard greens for the New Year's, how to make your cornbread just right, and a whole bunch of like really crazy, really fun stuff. Like, so if anybody is looking to read more, I also recommend Zora Hurston's Of Mules and Men. It's free online. I think I found a copy. So
you can get free anything. Maybe we can put it in the F description. I've like read bits of this. I feel like this is what I want the TikToks to be. Like it has the spells in there that you want, but I feel like with a bit of caution, you open a book.
It does have like, it's not pretty. I mean, you know, Wicca's very pretty. It's very like, I will do no harm, and I will assign circles, and I will bless the earth. And Hoodoo is more like, you take your man's semen, and you take a nail, and you put the nail, and you bury it, and you put pepper on it. It's very like, I don't know. It's
don't pretend you're not
scrappy.
doing any harm. I think that's it. I think like the white magic of Wicca is like, if you were doing a spell that affects somebody's free will, you've done harm. Mm-hmm. Don't say I've done no harm and then do a love spell. Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't make any sense. But I feel like you were saying this, or you were saying also like accepting consequences as a part of your magic is like, it's not that I've done no harm. Mm-hmm. It's that like I'm in a situation that warrants X, Y, and Z, and I'm willing to receive whatever comes
AKA
back.
The craft. Like, what do they keep? They have that refrain where they're like, whatever you do comes back 10 on you. Like, so be careful. I mean, that's not about voodoo at all, but like, I think that was like a representation of magic that I kind of was like, yeah, I mean, you should be careful.
But as far as like things like, I don't know, things for people's health, or, I mean, love magic can be used for all kinds of reasons. With caution. But as far as like I think a lot of spells actually do no harm, and you're just asking the earth, you're asking whatever for a favor real quick, but I'll pay you back is the implication, where it's like if you ask the ancestors like, oh my gosh, my relative is sick, can you heal them? It's like, okay, and you're not going to put anything on the altar. You're not going to offer no food, no money, no nothing in exchange. And I think that's when you get the whammy of like the bad karma, is like you asked for something and you didn't pay it back. It doesn't necessarily like if you don't pay it back, it'll get taken.
Yeah, I guess my message to everybody out there would be, if you've never, done magic and you saw a TikTok for getting your ex back, maybe put the bottle down, put the phone down, put the
honey
down,
away.
Put the honey away, the rose
Piss in the
petals,
jar, put it away.
Yeah, let it go.
Semen doesn't belong to you.
Take the spaghetti off the stove.
Yeah.
Make pesto.
Tampons go in the trash.
Oh, I wanted to know, you kind of answered this already, but what kind of hoodoo practices do you kind of engage with?
There are a bunch that my mom. So I think like a common thread, and this is also a favorite part of mine with Eve's Bayou, is kind of like that intuition. Like I can't see like my mother can, for example, but there are like things that I experience, and like the most common thing is, I don't know, like my mom taught me to keep a glass of like untouched water by your bed at night so that ghosts and energies can't bother you, to like keep that from happening. I usually spend a lot of time. Does it have
to be open?
No, like just like a glass, just like, yeah, like an open glass, like on a nightstand.
Oh, but I have a flask, so I fucked it.
You can't get in there.
Yeah. And the idea is that like, spirits can't cross water and it protects you. Like that's something that I do.
Have you ever done, I'm asking you like I don't know, have you ever done any magic you regret?
Yeah.
That's dark, Zeba.
No,
it's okay. It's okay. It needs to be said. Love magic is not the tea. Don't ever do it. It's not the tea. Like there's so many ways that it goes wrong.
Wait, can you say what happened? Now I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, like I've done every type of love magic. I've done magic like make like, because the first time I did it, I was just like, wow, I like really want like a partner, and I just like shot off energy, and then I got a crazy person. And then the second time I did love magic, I was like really trying to like see how this guy felt about me, and I kept getting the answers, but I was ignoring them, so I kept doing that, and that was a nightmare. And the third, fourth, fifth time I did love magic, like the attempt was to like, if my ex, well, this is so whatever, if my ex had like whatever thoughts about me, that he would continue to think about me. That was also a nightmare. Love magic is always a nightmare.
I feel like your specialty is like protection. Like I feel like you're good at drawing energy in, but also keeping it out. Like yeah. I think because you draw in so much I don't know, energies, spirit, you take on a lot of like other people's energies and other people's like whatever, and outside spirits. You're really good at like protecting the house, keeping all the corners sealed. I mean, that's making sure everybody's good.
How do you do that? I guess you don't want to give away your trade secrets.
No, I mean, there's ways. Have you ever heard of like cascaria?
No, go on.
So you get a carton of eggs, and when you use the eggs, you keep the shells, and you grind the shells up into a powder, and then you mix that cascaria and with maybe like some purifying salt, something like that. You sprinkle that across your doorway. There are little things that you can do. I used like the ash from like our smoking to make like runes and shit for protection. I've done like floor washes with like lemon balm. There's so many different ways to protect. Yeah, the great thing about protection magic is that always comes from like the inner need to protect, right? To create a safe environment. Love magic and those types of things always come from a little bit of a darker place, right? Like that fear of isolation or loneliness or things like that. And those are never places to cast from. For anybody that is looking to do magic, I guess it's important to, find the core, find the emotional tether that you're using.
I feel like glamour magic could be cute for the TikTok girls. Like it's relatively safe, and it's like, putting your oils and your herbs in your like skincare and in your like, oiling your hair, doing your whatever. I feel like that's giving to yourself, and you can't hurt yourself giving to yourself. I feel like, well, it can go too far.
It can.
That's interesting. My friend recently was like, I think I've been hexed. I told you about that in the group chat, didn't I say about that? Like, she was like, oh, basically there was this disgruntled employee who was angry and was like, and she was like tweeting, I put a hex on my old workplace. And like everyone in her workplace was like getting sick, like with various things. And she's had like some some physical health problems and stuff like that. And she like was like, how do you get rid of a hex? And I was just like looking it up, but it was just like a bunch of like different protective things.
My recommendation, if your friend is still, if they want some advice, is to take an egg, a brown egg, and to kind of like rub it on your body, almost like you're like bathing with it. And then you throw that egg at a tree, preferably a tree at a crossroads.
That was online too. It was a bit different than that, but that makes me a little bit more reassured that the internet's not always just like trying to bullshit you into like doing some things that you don't understand.
If they're nosy, they can crack the egg and see if there are any bubbles, and that's how many evil eyes you got on you. Crack into like a glass of water.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't want to know. That's
I was gonna say, like, I don't.
I know one confirmed.
Or like Epsom salt, like if you want to take like a relaxing Epsom salt bath, that'll also be good to get some of that negative juju off you. Okay, cool. I'm gonna pass that information along.
Where do you stand on smudging?
Sage is incredibly endangered now because of the market for it, and it is still an indigenous practice for First Nations people. And I feel like if we're going to be using smoke to clean, that there are a number of other things that are, indigenous to various people over the world that aren't endangered. Lemon balm has very strong cleansing abilities and is not, religious or ritualistic in the same way.
Also would probably smell great. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'm glad that we did this.
Thank you.
Thanks, bestie.
Oh my God, thank you.
I'm so glad you guys, I'm glad that you, Zeba, decided to be accepting of Ari into your life.
Yeah, it's for the better, for sure.
Oh my God, wow, I'm going to remind you of that.
Thank you for listening to The Monstrous Feminine. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, SoundCloud, and Spotify at The Monstrous Feminine Podcast, and on Twitter at The MonFemPod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and follow us on TikTok at The Monstrous Feminine Pod. Brooms up, witches out.